Hey everybody, it's Alan, and welcome to part 2 of trimming my Parrot's Beak pre-bonsai. And in part 1, I talked about how I'm choosing where these guys go based on their development. And they're either going to go directly into bonsai pots because I think they've got the lines and the form and the branching where they're ready to go into a bonsai pot. And then another batch will go into fresh ice cream containers because much like this one, they begin to disintegrate. Even though the tree is like, who cares? That's the beauty of Parrot's Beak, is they're just so resilient. And then the third batch are going to be taller trees that are going to go into larger pots. So if this is going to be a tall tree, we're going to put it into a bulb pan and grow it on so it becomes even taller and larger. So this tree is an interesting tree. I'm not really sure where I'm going with it. This part is entirely dead, which I don't really know why. It's also got some lower growth that's suckling from the base, and we don't want that. And then of course I have to decide what I want to do with, well, first of all, let's take care of business first. Chopping all the excess away. Okay, we got that guy there. So what do we do with this guy? That's a good question. I'm not sure this branch is really where I want it. I think better first branch is right here, which once again, this is going to be a taller tree. It's not as robust as the two in part 1. So it could very well be a much more feminine style once it's finished. But I think you definitely take that guy off because I just don't like it there. And so this would be the first main branch. So once again, rule of thirds, 1, 2, and then even up out of the frame. So that's going to be one that will grow in a bigger pot in training. This next tree, I think, is another one that could grow much taller, even though we have a low first main branch. Well, first of all, let me just chop all the stuff off that we know we don't need. And Parrot's Beak just grow like that if you let them. And I don't know. This is kind of a marginal one. I'm thinking of keeping it smaller. And this could possibly even go into a bonsai pot. Because we have decent roots, not perfect, but we have a first main branch, second main branch. Kind of a nasty scar right there. But I don't think I'm going to grow this one taller. And it's entirely up to, you if you want to grow it taller. If it's your tree, right, chop these guys off, make this the first main branch, and it'll be a taller tree. But I'm going to keep this one, give it a better pot, because once again, the entire batch of ice cream containers that these guys are in have pretty much seen their ends of days. They all need to be replaced with fresh containers, which I have just waiting in the wings. So he's one that's just going to stay in training, but still be a little smaller. This next tree is a very interesting critter. And once again, if allowed to, they will sucker from the base. So take that guy off. And you might think that this would also be something that I would grow as a taller tree. But I'm thinking very seriously, and I'll think out loud as I'm doing this part, of turning it into kind of a bunjin style. So it'll still be a little smaller, and all the foliage will be up here, and we can complement the curve of the trunk and the curve of the branches. So like bring this guy down into here and have it sweep into this place here. And this branch here is very, very heavy, but we could probably still use it as part of the design. So I think I'm going, this one may go in a bonsai pot, a very shallow oval, whereas most of the bonsai pots that I had visioned for the ones that I've chosen already to go into bonsai pots would be a little deeper and perhaps rectangular, perhaps some ovals. But I think this tree would make a fantastic specimen in a shallow oval that's, pretty long, like that. And once again, bring this guy down into there so it would sweep into this space. And I may even remove these guys completely and have it be somewhat of a Bunjin feel to it. So that's that guy. So I'm going to put him in the bonsai pot group. This next one also could go either way. Either into a bonsai pot to be a smaller tree with first main branch here, or allowed to grow much taller and eventually wider as a bonsai. And it does it really matter? And I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to let it grow taller. Although we do have, if I pinch out these branches here, you'll see this apex here has a lot of movement and character, and then this part here, which holds all this wild range of growth, which is coming off anyway, comes from that same point. And I think now it's time to use the concave cutters. I think that whole guy comes off. Okay, come on. There we go. Just that simple. So what do we do with this guy? Good question. Now that we've cut all that excess growth off, it could certainly be a smaller tree. We have one huge flaw, is that we have parallel branches right here and right here. And if this is going to be the first main branch, then this one comes off because this is in the inside of the curve, and it's also a bar branch with this one. So I'm saving this tiny piece, which I can promote to become the first main branch. Then this one comes off. Although for some reason my brain is saying wait on that. Because even though it's on the inside of a curve, which is really never really what I want to do, I might make this the next main branch. So that's the first main branch. So right now, I think we're taking it to refurbishing the pot and keeping it just in this size right now. And there's always going to be some that are not going to fit into one category or the other. And that's just part of the process. So a lot of times this is very arbitrary. I could have kept the growth that was shooting way up and let it become a much, much taller tree. So sometimes my decision making, or anybody's decision making, is fairly arbitrary just based on what you want to do. And of course following the rules of proportion. That's a huge part of bonsai, is the proportionality of the branches to the trunk and the trunk to the pot and the height to the branches, and it goes on and on. This is a mighty funky guy. Instead of all the excess rangy growth emanating from the top, we've had a sucker here that was not at the base, but boy, it has a tremendous amount of foliage, so I'm taking that off. I mean, look at all the foliage that thing had on there. Just tremendous. And this is a much blockier, stockier tree. A lot of the ones that I've chosen to be bonsai right now is because they have that really graceful feminine curve. This is a much blockier, stockier tree, which is not bad, it's just different. And I think that this is another one that's going to get a brand new ice cream container and then allowed to develop a little bit more, but not to grow super tall. And it's got a very heavy scar right in the front, but that's okay. Sometimes that can create what's called uro, which is spelled U-R-O, and it's a term for a scar in the trunk that actually never heals over. And so it can actually add to the impression of age on a tree. So that's the next one. This specimen is very interesting. I would probably call this the runt, because it's just got nothing. It's got 2 places of wild rangy growth, and then that's about it. What would be the first main branch has died, and so I would definitely call this guy the runt. That looks dead too. And of course, that happens when you plant 30 or 40 seedlings, and these were cuttings of exactly the same tree in exactly the same pot, and they're all in exactly the same space on the bench. You can never expect them. There's a certain uniformity, obviously, that we're seeing, but you will get ones that are more robust, and you get ones that are less robust. And this guy is very definitely less robust. So he will be refurbished into a new chocolate. Into a new ice cream container, and just let it grow. We do have a lot of little stuff in here that could very easily become a nice tree, but for now it's really, I would definitely call this, so far at least, I would call this guy the runt. So it's interesting compared to the last one. This is one with at least as thick a trunk as any of the rest of them, but it has no top. Right here, it just all spreads out and into a huge array of different branches. So this one's going to require quite a bit of cutting back too. I don't think this is a contender for growing bigger. But it has a lot of confusion. There's really no apex, there's no place. Okay, where do we go with this? How do we do this? Where's the front? It's just one of those. And that can happen. It's got a very strange scar here. The trunk is very rigid, straight. Certainly not my best effort. So he will go back into training in a new container. Okay, this guy here, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And as you can see, it is very tall, very straight, not a lot of movement. It does move here though, so I think this is going to be, so if we take it to there, even without cutting all this stuff off, we can see the line of the tree comes up into here. So I've decided this one is going to be one that goes into a bigger pot and allowed to grow taller. So if we look, and I'm thinking, because I'm putting them all into separate areas. So I've got, I think 6 that I'm going to put into bonsai pots right away. I've probably got another, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 or 7 that are going to stay in ice cream containers and just develop at the height they are. And then I've got, well, how many more? Yeah, this is number 4 of the ones that I'm going to grow taller. So it's about an even distribution, pretty close. 6 into bonsai pots, 7 that are going to stay where they are, and 4 that are going to grow much larger in the larger pots. And of course, I'm still only about halfway. This is an interesting specimen. It's probably, of course, right now you're like, what specimen? Here, let's go like that. There we go. Okay, take all this stuff off. Except for the spider, if we discount the exposed roots on the spider, this is about the smallest specimen that I've got of these guys. And I'm going to keep it like that. I'm going to keep it real small. It's going to be a Shohin at best. And I think it's going into a bonsai pot too. It's possibly a little premature into a bonsai pot, but I think I'm going to go for it anyway. And if you notice right here, it's sort of hiding, but in there, massive trunk chop, which is why this guy is so small, because very few got chopped like that. And I think what happened was the thing was so straight, it was just looking so incredibly ugly, that I just gave it that chop. This is very heavy here, which may actually come off, and use this as the apex right there, which right now goes away from you, but I can bring it back forward once it's... So this is going to be a very small little tree. Small little tree? That's redundant, isn't it? It's like saying a little mame. Or a pin number. Okay. If you're not already bored out of your mind and gone to watch some little Korean girl dancing that has 14 million views, this next one is going to be grown taller. Pretty obvious. Got the first main branch, and then, rule of thirds, this tree needs to be like whoop, up into here. Now we do have an interesting paradox, because we have, let me try to get some of the leaves out of there so you can see it better. We have a lot of movement up in here that is very nice, and yet we also have this very thin piece right here that goes up. And I could chop that entire thing off and just leave this very thin piece, in which case it would become a much thinner tree. And that doesn't have anywhere near the amount of movement as the heavier part. But it's a thought. And if I cut that heavier part off, I'm talking about taking everything off like this. and just leaving that guy. This could still make a very interesting tree. Plus I could root this guy and have a real killer mame tree. For now, that's one of those things where, you know, I talk about bonsai being very Zen Buddhism. And one of the biggest tenets with Zen Buddhism is, if you're confused, wait. If you got a tree and you're not quite sure what to do, just hold off. Watch it, study it, come to the conclusion that you want, and then when you're confident about what it is you want to do, then do it. But I find nothing wrong with waiting if you're not quite sure. So on this tree here, I am actually going to leave both and then just decide at a later date where I want to go with it. Either take all of this off here and make this as the leader, or cut that off completely because it's right at the base of this branch. So that's for a later date, but this is one that will be put into a larger pot and allowed to go taller. This is another tree that, well, let's say it's not my finest specimen. Or maybe I should say more accurately, it's not one of the favorites of the trees I've showed you. And why is that? Well, because it's very straight, it's very blocky, it really doesn't have much going on up on top. It's a little bit way too heavy if I'm going to bring this up as the leader. We even have reverse taper from right here down to here. So this is one where I am going to make that decision. Like I talked about on the last one, where I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do. With this one here, I am going to make that decision. And I'm going to take all of this off. I think I'm going to have to start in pieces. I'm going to try to save this little critter. But the rest of it, comes off. And I'm not entirely sure I really want this either. So I think that's also a concave cutter job. Okay. So now we don't have much of a tree, but I think it has better potential than when this was the apex. It was just too heavy. However, we can take this guy. Let's move him out of the way. We can take this guy, and look at right there, we already have a cool little tree. We have first main branch, second main branch, apex. Stick it in some perlite. Now because, you know, it's stuck right here, this may be way too low, which actually I'm going to take it off because I'm going to want to put it into the perlite more deeply than that anyway. But look at that, we have a really cool little tree right there. Just boom. Just from that cutting. So even though I, you know, modified that tree a lot and took off, you know, the most robust section, I think the tree itself will actually benefit from that. Plus, if it roots, and I'm pretty confident it will because Parrot's beak root very easily, I've already got an instant little mame. So I think I'm going to end part 2 right there because I still have a whole nother group. Part of the same group. I think I have 30. So I'm just going to end it right there. So I'll show you this guy here. So hopefully you're gaining something from watching these videos. You know, how I think about what I want to do with my styling, why I'm going to make some trees taller, why I'm going to put some directly into bonsai pots, because they're already nicely developed, and why some are not developed enough that they need a little more time. And so we will do part 3 probably tomorrow, because I'm getting tired. And the sun's going to be blazing into my back in about another half an hour. So we have had such heat. It has been unbelievable. 95, which I think is like 34 or 35 degrees C. For sometimes in July, I think we had 10 days straight, 12 days straight of 94, 95, and high humidity. So every single day was a heat stress day, heat warning, where they told you, if you're outside, only spend a few minutes, drink a lot of water, come in, take breaks regularly, every single day for like 12 days in a row. So I'm just drifting. Oh, I'm drifting. All right, so there we go. And I think I'm going to put this guy in perlite as next. So I'm going to jam the scar into some rooting hormone and put him in some perlite off camera. So thanks for watching, and part 3 will be coming probably tomorrow.